Hello one and all, and welcome to this e-seminar. So today, let me just check what we're going to be talking about, just make sure that I'm in the right e-seminar. We're going to be talking about creating outstanding layout effects in InDesign and Photoshop CC. Well good, I'm in the right seminar, I hope you are too. So today we're going to be looking at not just InDesign but also Photoshop. And one of the great things with Adobe Creative Cloud is the way in which the applications work together. So it's not just about one application, but it's about leveraging both and taking those two along the creative path together. So a lot of the features I will be looking at today will be not just available in the latest versions, but they've been around for a while. So this isn't a what's new in InDesign or Photoshop. This is very much a sort of top tips collection, allowing you to use the various features, whether you've been using InDesign CS6 or previous versions. And what we'll be doing is going through creating a magazine, and I'll be showing you some of the layout effects and special effects that you can create with InDesign, but also showing how you would start those images in something like Photoshop and then use some of those features to bring those back into InDesign. Okay, so as I mentioned, the two applications we're going to be looking at is Photoshop obviously here, and also InDesign there as well. So without further ado, let's switch over to InDesign. And we've got here a template, A4 page here. And what we want to do is create a cover for our magazine here. And if we have a look at some classic covers, if we'll just switch over to the internet here, and there's some images of Vogue examples here, you can see how Vogue have tried different effects here. And in this particular example, we can see how the word Vogue actually goes behind the model. And we want to show you how you're going to create or reproduce this effect inside InDesign. So the first thing to do is let's place an image inside InDesign. So we'll do File, Place, and let's grab our model here. And we'll just place him over the top here. Okay, let's just reposition that. And we're just going to scale that content to fill the frame. Okay, so far so good. And now we're going to go and put the title of our magazine, and we're going to call this magazine profile. So let's put a text frame up here. And let's choose a font. And we're going to choose Nueva Standard, condensed, bold condensed. Okay, and let's make this nice and large, and we're going to call that profile. Okay, let's just center that. So far so good, but if we just press W on the keypad here to view the preview, we can see how the word profile obviously isn't that clear. It's blending in with the model's hair here, and what we want to do is be able to bring the model to the front and give a more of a sense of depth. And the way we do that is we're going to take the picture of Rob here. I don't know if that's his real name, but that's what I'm going to call him. And we're going to create some separate layers in Photoshop and layer the profile words there in between. So we're going to create a Rob sandwich, if you like. So first thing we're going to do is right-click on the photograph and go Edit Original. And that's going to take me straight over into Adobe Photoshop CC, and you saw how fast and quick that was. So now what we want to do is create a selection around Rob and then create a new layer. And to do that, we're going to use the Quick Select tool here. Okay, and we're just going to do an outline around Rob's outrageous hair here. You really should have brushed it this morning. And let's just drag that and make sure we've got all his head. We only really need the head. We just need the area where that profile is going to appear. Okay, so we've got his head here. Now what we need to do is do a little bit of work on that hair and be able to select that hair. And that's where Refine Edge comes in. So we're going to choose Refine Edge, which came in CS5. Select that. And now we can see we've now got just a view of Rob's head here. And we can view Rob's head against either a black background or white or this red overlay, or we can just see the selection directly on the screen. If we choose the overlay here, I'm going to do a bit of radius there, and I'm just going to increase the brush size here, and we're going to brush over the edges here. And you'll also notice how we've got a little bit of yellow here coming through from the background. Well, we don't want that yellow to appear. So again, Refine Edge will help us to remove that yellow area and select all the detail in the hair here. And we'll do a bit more up here as well. And really allows us to extract Rob and his hairstyle to a new layer for us. Okay, there we go. Just make sure we haven't got any more of that orange there. And some of those strands of hair here. Okay. And if we actually look now against a black and white, we can see the detail here. Look at all that detail of that hair coming through. And it's often good, if we look at that against black, we can also check to make sure that we haven't got much yellow coming through from the background. Okay, I'm pleased with that now. The last thing I'll do is just turn on Decontaminate Colors. And Decontaminate Colors just make sure that we're not going to have any of the background color coming through on that. It's always good practice to turn that on. And then I'm going to output this to a new layer. Okay, click OK, and it's going to extract that for me. And if we look here, we can now see we've got Rob copy, and there we can see we've got Rob's hair. Now, of course, we've also got the original Rob in the background layer as well. Let's just rename this, and we will give it a name. We'll just call it Head there. And let's just save that now and close it. Oh, hang on. Let me save that, make sure it's saved. I think okay, no, that's fine. I closed it before I saved it. It's not always a good thing to do. Okay, now let's go back to InDesign. And InDesign, if we look in our links panel now, should see Rob has been updated. If I right click on the image here and go Object Layer Options, we look in the object layer, we can see we've got two layers now. We've got Head and Rob. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So we want two copies of Rob. So I'm going to go to my Layers panel, select Rob, and go to the panel menu and do Duplicate Page Item. So I've now got two copies of Rob. What I want to do is put Profile in between the two copies here. And then I want to select the top version here. We're going to select that. Right click on Rob and go Object Layer Options. And this time just select Head. Okay. Click OK. We'll click Preview. Click OK. And there we can see how now the word Profile goes behind his head, but of course we've still got the original image there. If I turn off that background image, then you can see how we lose that. So we've got three layers. We've got the original image in the bottom, the word Profile in the middle, and then we've got Rob's head on the top. So you can see how now we've got that sense of depth and how we're blending that text element directly in our design. And you can go on further and you can add other elements to the page and create other effects. Now obviously do bear in mind that if you are hiding your title here, which this can work really well for things like Vogue, which is obviously a very well-known title, but if people don't necessarily know your title, it might not always work. So you need to be conscious about how much of your title you're actually hiding. But this could be quite a nice effect. Okay, and we can go on and add other elements. So if I wanted to add, say, a line here, we can do that. We'll just drag a line, a straight line underneath. And again, let me just check. Currently the line's on top, but again, if I just drag that in the Layers panel, and if we click away, you can see how the line now also goes underneath. Now to my eye, this black profile here looks a little bit strong, so we can tone this down a little bit. So let's select the profile, word profile here. Again, we're using the links panel to select. It's quite a good way of being able to be very precise about what you're selecting. And this time we're going to apply a subtle gradient to the word profile. So for here, we're going to go to the FX option up here in the control panel. You can use the FX panel as well over here to do this. I tend to use this one. We're going to select a nice gradient feather here, and let's just change that to 90 degrees. Oops, let's change that again. Go back in, gradient feather, and select -90. Okay, so there we've got a bit more of a subtle effect. Let's just change the opacity of that one there. There we go, and that softens that. It's not quite as harsh now against the background. Okay, so really quick and easy to be able to do that. So again, you can see how by using layers inside Photoshop, you can then actually you can then interact with those layers directly inside InDesign. Okay, so let's move on and look at the next tip. So let's create another page here inside my Pages panel inside InDesign. And this time we're going to do a spread. 2 pages, 2 A4 pages, in my calculations I think that equals A3 in terms of size. And what we want to have is we want to have a photograph that goes over both A3 pages, both A4 pages, so a classic spread if you like. So I've got a photograph, and what I want to do is I want to put text over that photograph as well. So let me first of all just import the photograph I want to use, and again we'll use File, Place. We've got this picture of these flippers, and I'm going to drag this out now, and we'll make it, that'll do. Now the issue here is I've got a fair bit of text I want to put onto this page, onto this spread, and what I want to do is I want to flow the text around the flippers. But at the moment, if I resize this image, then the problem I'm going to have is it's either going to crop my image. So if I drag this out, we can see we're actually cropping my image here, which I don't want to do. What I want is I really want the flippers to be about that sort of size. So I don't want the flippers to be any bigger, but I obviously want the photograph to encompass all of the pages. So what we first of all need to do is go back to Photoshop and do some trickery in Photoshop, which will allow us to extend the background to cover the page, both pages, but not resize the flippers. So we want the best of both worlds. So we'll just get rid of that, and let's go back to InDesign. We're going to do File, New, and we're going to create an A3 page here. So this will be the basis of my page. So A3. Let's just rotate that 90 degrees. Okay, so this is our spread. We're now going to place that image of the flippers. So let's go and find that image. There they are. Click Place. Okay, and now we can scale this down, holding the Shift key. Make sure that we scale that proportionally. Let's position that. There we go, and I think that's about right. That gives me the right space that I need. We're going to click OK. And now we can see we've now got 2 layers. We've got our background here, and we've got our flippers. Now flippers has come in as a smart object. Well, we need to convert that to a rasterized layer because we're going to be doing some image editing on that. So we select the flippers layer and choose rasterize layer. Okay, now we've got the individual pixels that I can select there. Okay, so if I was to select flippers here, and if I was to resize this now, we're going to edit. And this option's been around, I think, since about CS4, ContentAware Scale. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's pretty powerful. If I use ContentAware Scale here, so select that, I can drag this up to fill my A3 page. But notice that the flippers are scaling as well, which is exactly what we don't want. So I'm going to exit out of that. What we need to tell ContentAware Scale is the areas that we want to protect. And in this instance, it's the flippers. So we want to protect the flippers, but also scale the image. So that's where we'll use the quick selection tool again. And we're just going to quick select around my flippers and not forgetting the shadow. There we go. And we'll also do these bits up here. There we go. So I've selected my flippers. And now we need to save this selection. So we go to Select, Save Selection. We'll give it a new name, and we'll call it Flippers. Okay, we click OK. So we've done that. So we've saved our selection. So now we're going to, if we just Command-click on the flippers layer on the right-hand side, that will select all of the pixels on that layer. And now, let's go back to Edit, ContentAware Scale. And now, up here, under Protect, we can see now we've got flippers. So that selection that we saved is now available as a layer or a selection that we can choose. Okay, so we've told it to protect the flippers, please. And now watch what happens when I scale that up. We can see how the background scales and the purple boarding and the green there, and also the floorboards at the bottom scale, but our flippers are protected. They've shifted slightly to the right, but they haven't changed in size, which is what we want. And there it's scaled really well for us, ContentAware Scale. So there we go. We've now got our image in the right size and in the right proportions. So let's go ahead and save this. File, Save As, and let's put that into my Creative Cloud folder on links, and we'll call this Flippers 2. Save. And now that's saved it. Right, so without further ado, let's go back to InDesign. And we'll do File, Place, let's grab Flippers 2, Open, and let's just drag that out. And as you can see now, it fits perfectly on my spread. And there we go. And we've now got a full screen image there. Now, there's one further thing that I want to do here. Remember, I was saying what we want to do is have text that actually flows around the flippers. Well, the way we do that is we can define a region, a selection inside Photoshop, and then use that region to actually tell InDesign how to flow the text. So I'm going to go back, so Edit Original, take me straight back into Photoshop. I'm going to load the selection we had earlier, the flippers selection, click OK. And you'll notice here how the flippers have actually, the selections shifted slightly, because when I scaled the image, the flippers didn't resize, but they did move slightly to accommodate the expanding background. So I'm just going to move that selection so that it sits over. I'm just going to drag it to the right. There we go. So it sits over my selection. That's great. And let's just do Selection, Save. We're just going to overwrite flippers. Okay, Replace Channel. Okay, we're just replacing that now. Click OK. File, Save. Okay, let's save that. Now we go back to to InDesign. Let's put in a text layer, a text frame. Okay, so we're going to just align that with my grid here. Let's drag that down. We'll put it about there. Should do. Let me select a font. Let's go for Helvetica Regular, and we'll use 14 point. Okay, fine. Okay, so select my text layer. We're going to do text frame options. We're going to have a 4-column, and let's increase the gutter to 7 millimeters. Oh, not 7 meters. 7 millimeters. 7 meters might be a little bit big. We can preview that as well. Click OK. And now we're just going to put in some placeholder text to see how it's going to work. So we select our frame, fill with placeholder text, And there you can see we've now got my 4 columns going over my image, filling my page. But of course what we want to do is we want to flow around the flippers, which is fine. We select our flippers image, go to the text wrap panel here, let's pull that out. And this is where you can specify all the options. We want the third one, the text around shape, object shape. So we select the middle one, and now if we come to the contour options here, we have an alpha channel here, an alpha channel option. And notice under alphas we've got flippers. So that selection layer that I created earlier is also being saved as an alpha channel, and I can use that to tell InDesign how to flow my text. If I zoom out now, can you see how now the text is now wrapping nicely around my flippers, and it's a little bit tight here, so we can come in here and just give it a bit more breathing room. You'll notice as I do that, can you see how we've got this blue outline? It's actually showing me the contours here of the outline of the text wrap. Now, you may want to come here in here and just back in Photoshop, just change the selection here. I think this text wrap is a little bit over the top, coming in this V shape here. So you may want to quickly go back into Photoshop and then change that. But that's the beauty of the way in which Photoshop and InDesign can work, is you can very quickly just right click, edit original, load that selection up, make a quick modification to the selection, save it back, and then instantly your layout will readapt based on that new selection. So again, nice to be able to go back and forth between the two. Okay, so there we've got our nice selection. The last thing you may want to do, at the moment the background's a little bit strong, maybe hard to read that text, quite strong colours here, is you may want to just select the image there and maybe just put in a little bit of transparency here. So just dial that down a little bit here, so maybe 70 odd% here. It just makes the text that bit more legible. Okay, so next tip, next page, let's move on and look at another example. So we'll have another page here, and be able to show you how you can create special effects by flowing images into shapes. And again, this is one of those things that's been in InDesign for a while, and a lot of people don't necessarily know it's there or don't know how to use it. But let's show you what I mean. So the first thing, we'll put a frame on this page, and we're going to place an image inside it. So File, Place, and we've got this picture of this pool here. Click Open, and we're just going to come up here and fill the frame proportionally. Okay, so we're now filling the frame here with this image of this pool and these feet. That's fine. We're going to go to our Layers panel, and let's just duplicate this layer. So we've got 2 copies of it. And I'm just going to turn those off now. So I've got my 2 copies. What I want to now do is create some shapes, and I want to flow that image of that pool into that shapes. And you can use the vector tools to be able to do this, but you can create any combination of shapes. And we're going to use we're going to create some circles here, and select the ellipse tool on the left-hand side here, and let's draw some circles. So we're just going to hold down Shift to keep that square. It's a circle, it can't be square. To keep it perfectly circular, that's what I was looking for. So we drag that out, and I can actually use the arrow keys here. So I'm using the right key to give me another column, and then I'm using the up arrow to give me another row. So we can create this grid of circles. We'll drag that down. There we go. That's fine, I'm happy with that. The next stage, once I've got my vector shapes, is we need to convert this into one object. So at the moment I've got a whole series of independent circles. So, and as we can see in our layers panel, look at all those ovals there. So I'm going to go to Object and Paths and Make Compound Path. Okay, and that's going to convert all of those individual circles into one object. Now that I've got my one object, I can now flow my image into that. Okay, so there's my shapes, and we can see now if we look at the layers panel, we can see we've got our compound path there. So what I want to do is let's go back to my pools, one of my copies of my photographs there of the pool, select it, and this time I'm going to cut it, select my compound path. So in my clipboard I've got my photograph, my full screen photograph. Now I'm selecting that vector object. And this could be a vector object of a Christmas tree or whatever, it doesn't matter. And now we're going to go edit, paste into. Okay, so edit, paste into. Now we can see how that image now is effectively appearing almost like a mask. So we're masking over that image. Now we can now come in and edit this. So at the moment you'll see my vector object has got this stroke. So we've got a stroke around those circles. We may want to take that off. So we're going to do that. We're going to remove the stroke. And we can start to apply special effects to those objects. So I'm going to go to the effects panel up here and choose inner shadow. Okay, and now we can see we've got this sort of cutout effect appearing on our page here. So here we can see the various circles are now cut out, again giving an impression of depth, of sort of 3D, and of course it's something a little bit different than the drop shadow that we see a lot of these days. Okay, so there I've got my, I've now got my drop shadow, but we want to go further, and what I want to do is, remember we had 2 copies of pool, so I'm going to show that one again, and there you can see now we've got our circles overlaying, but what I want to do is convert this background image into black and white, and there's a way in which we can do that inside InDesign, or we can screen it and do various other effects, and that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to turn off my circles image, select my pool image here, and what we're going to do is we're going to place a rectangle over the top of my pool image here. Let's just drag that down. And we're going to fill it with black. Okay, so we've effectively just created a rectangle with a black fill inside that. And now we're going to, in our layers panel, we're just going to move that rectangle so it's on top of my swimming pool picture there. And we're going to go back to the effects panel, choose transparency, and come into here and choose screen. So we're going to use the black square as a screen onto my coloured photograph here. And here you can see how we've now got this sort of high key bleached black and white effect on the photograph underneath. So again, really quick and easy to do. And of course all of this is non-destructive as well. You've got to remember that. You can easily come in, and if you don't like that effect, then fine, let's turn that off. Maybe we'll do another type of effect. Well, that's fine. You can do that easily here. We're going to choose go back to screen, click OK, we quite like that. And remember, let's turn our circles back on. So now we've got our circles back on, which are of course in colour. So we've got this sort of screen effect here, where you've got the black and white, and then you've got the colour circles coming in. So again, another nice way of being able to create compelling content, visual content with a little bit of depth in there. Okay, so a lot of things so far. One final tip. There are other ways of doing cutouts and overlays. You can convert them to compound paths, but we'll look at another method of doing that here. So let's just go and create another blank page. Go to frame. We'll just drag that out. Okay, we've got a frame there. Let's do file, place, and select this colourful picture of some thread. Click open. Okay. So what I want to do is be able to, again, create some text and do a punch through, so you see the text, or you see the string pattern underneath, the thread pattern underneath. Now, I could do what we've just done, create a compound path, but of course as soon as I turn text into a compound path, I can no longer edit that live text. This method allows me to continue to edit the text, and it's using knockout groups effectively inside the effects panel again. So I've got my background image here. Let me just go to the layers panel. I'm just going to lock this thread image. We don't need to edit that again. So we just choose the lock one there. It's quite a good way if you don't want to accidentally select a layer and you've finished working on that layer. It's quite a good practice just to lock it in place so you don't accidentally move it or distort it. The next thing we're going to do is put on a text frame. So we press T on the keyboard, drag out a frame the width of my page, and let's choose, go to the character panel. We're going to choose, we'll use the same, actually let's go for Bauhaus, quite like Bauhaus, and we'll use Bauhaus, standard, bold, and let's make that 120 color. It doesn't actually matter what color you choose here, and let's call thread. Okay, let's make that a little bit bigger. So it, let's try 190. There we go. We'll do that one 190 as well. And there we go. Let's just make sure that's centered. And we want to fill the background with black. So in my fill options here for the text frame, we're going to fill it with black. Okay. And we'll center that. So I've got the word thread here, centered within my black box here. But what I want to do is see the thread in the text. Now, as I mentioned before, you could, in theory, convert that text into a path, and then you could use that same technique of pasting the image into the path. But here we want to actually maintain the editability of the text. So we're going to again use the effects panel, the effects options. So we select the box here, the text, go to effects, and this time one of the things to notice in the effects box is you can apply effects to different things within a text box. So the text box itself, or the stroke, or the fill, in this case the fill is the black, or the text itself. So something to be aware of. We're going to select the text option here. And what we want to do is set the opacity of the text to 0. So we'll just do that for the text layer. And it disappears, you'll notice. Don't worry though, it's still there, you just can't see it. Okay, we click, actually now what we want to do is go to the object this time. Okay, so I've selected object, and in the object we're going to choose knockout group. Okay, knockout group is going to tell it to knock out the object is effectively acting as a knockout here. Click OK, and now we can see how the thread, the image behind, is now coming through the word thread here. And if I move that around, then we can see that the image is staying static and we're just looking through, so it's masking effectively those words. And as I mentioned before, if I double click here, we can come in here and we can change this to anything we like. It's live text, or if we wanted to come in here and change to some other font, so bold condensed, for example, and there you can see how you can do that very quickly. Okay, so we've seen a number of effects. Let me just recap on the different things that we've seen here. The first one, the ability to reuse layers, Photoshop layers, inside InDesign. And remember, to do that, we select the image, right-click on the image, and it's Object Layer Options. Okay, and we can even choose layer comps as well if you've got those built in. So this very quick way of being able to do that, allowing you to sandwich objects in between other objects if you want to as well. The next effect we looked at was the ability to do ContentAware Scale. As we saw, being able to scale images, being able to protect certain parts of your photograph and prevent them from being scaled, but scaling other elements in the page. And we also saw how by creating a selection or an alpha channel, we could reuse that for our complex text wrap as well. We then also had a look at how you could use paste into vector shapes, and also how you could use effects to combine layers, combine objects, to use them as filters effectively for various images, for various effects. And finally, we looked at knockout groups and how you could use knockout groups again to give your images depth and various special effects. Okay. I hope you found this session useful. As I mentioned, a lot of these features have been available inside InDesign and also Photoshop for a number of releases, so you should be able to take advantage of those. We will be having other sessions showing you what's new in InDesign and Photoshop CC. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A pod there. And I will see if I can answer those. This session is being recorded and will be made available at a later date. So I know that we rushed through quite a lot of content there, but you will be able to look at the recording and obviously catch up on some of those tips and tricks. So now I will see what questions we have and see if I can answer any of those. So let me just have a look. So how do you load and save grids in InDesign? I think one of the good ways to do grids, certainly if you create a grid, you can save it to a template. So that's what I've done here. I've got a grid here that's actually inside my template here. So this is a template I've created, and I've actually built that grid here. Again, just using the create guides there. See if there's any other questions? No? Well, I think if that's it, then thanks very much for watching, and hope you found the session useful and helpful. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.